so some people rage against the machine, but I found a couple of guys who are racing against the machine. Erik Brynjolfsson and Andrew McAfee, both professors at Massachusetts Institute of Technology, have just authored a new book called Race Against the Machine, a book which speaks about how digital technology, digital revolution is accelerating all economic change. Andrew and Erik, welcome to TechCrunch TV.
Pleasure being here.
I'd like to have called you the two horsemen of the apocalypse, but you're actually the reverse.
Well, it's both. I mean, we have some very optimistic things to say, but we're also very concerned about what's happening to employment and median incomes.
So in general, we're both strong technology optimists, and we were originally going to write a book making the case for strong optimism, but the more we looked at the employment data and the workforce data over the past several years in America, the more we realized that this is an area where technology might be having some negative impacts. We decided to focus our research and our writing on those impacts because we felt they weren't being discussed enough.
So what's the bottom line about how technology is changing employment and economic growth? Erik?
Sure. Well, technology is creating tremendous amounts of wealth. It's boosting productivity and it's making the pie bigger. But there's no economic law that says that everyone has to gain equally. And especially the past 10 or 20 years, there have been some huge winners, billionaires literally, and the top 1% has done fabulously well. On the other hand, the remaining 99%, or really the bottom 50% in particular, have stagnated at best, and some of them have even been made worse off. So our book talks about both these trends, the way that technology is accelerating innovation and growing the pie, but also leading to a more uneven distribution of outcome.
Andrew, do you think it's fair to say that some people have so collapsed, particularly in America, the ideals of technology and of democracy, that we assume that the fruits of technology, by definition, must be democratic?
I think that is a fair assumption, and historically it's been actually a very good assumption as well. If you look at the history of technology diffusion throughout the economy, it's kind of a 200-year-old history. Let's go back to the looms that led to the Luddite movement. That was the labor displacing technology. So technology has been destroying jobs for a couple hundred years. At the same time, though, it's been creating jobs for a couple hundred years as well. And as people moved off the farm, as they got displaced by steam power and then electric power, there was tremendous job displacement. At the same time, though, new companies, new industries got formed, new jobs and new job categories got created so that we needed to employ more people with each wave of technology. One of the things Erik and I talked about and concluded writing this book was that this appears to be a particularly sharp instance of technology diffusion leading to large-scale job loss. And so the adjustment is a particularly nasty one, and we wanted to focus attention on the possible ways to accelerate job creation via technology, because there does seem to be an imbalance right now.
So Erik, where are the main sectors of loss?
Loss? Actually, one of the things that's unusual about this technology compared to other ones is that it's cutting right across virtually every sector of the economy. The digital revolution is most acutely affecting the information processing tasks in every industry, but that's about 60% of all employment. But increasingly, it's also affecting a lot of physical work, a lot of blue-collar work, the remaining 40%, factory automation and robots. One of the reasons that the job creation and job destruction is so much more acute this year compared to earlier revolutions is because of how widespread and pervasive the digital revolution is.
The median American worker is a knowledge worker who does not have a college education. So they're answering phones or dealing with customers, or they're a clerk somewhere. Those are exactly the information processing jobs that are most under threat by technology these days. To echo something Erik said, what's also really interesting is that when we looked both up in the job and the skills scale and into professions like law and medicine, we started to see some kinds of technology displacement happening there as well. And as we look down into the more physical laborers, we get the impression there is a robotics revolution that's just picking up steam now that could be displacing some of those people as well. But the heart of the job loss and the economic shock right now is right in the middle, right in the median of the American workforce.
Well, so far you've been almost 100% miserable, but you guys are the optimists. So what should we be cheerful about?
Well, we want to not lose sight of the fact that ultimately more wealth is being created now than ever before.
But only for a tiny minority of people.
That's right. But the good news is that technology is not stagnating, it's advancing rapidly, and it is making the pie bigger. The problem that we need to work on is finding ways to get more people to participate in that by having more broad skills for the workforce, the median worker that Andy was just talking about, by having more entrepreneurship to create new kinds of industries, new ways to employ people, and that's the task before us. I think it's good news that we're creating a lot of wealth and a lot of value, and it's a manageable task, but it's a tough one to find ways to get more people involved in that wealth creation.
Andrew, is education the key to this crisis?
Education is absolutely a key to this crisis, and one of the trends that stands out incredibly clearly from the data is that the more education you have, the more you've been able to race with technology instead of racing against technology. Unfortunately, we can't take all these displaced workers and send them back to start primary school and then university all over again. So we have this very large group of workers who we have to think about ways to upskill or reskill, or to Erik's point, we have to unleash entrepreneurial energy to go look at this large pool of available labor, this big economic resource, and say, okay, I've got ideas for how to put these people to work. For our younger people in society, education is absolutely the key, and we have recommendations in our book for some of the changes we'd like to see in the educational system, a bit less teaching to the test and a bit more focus on challenge-based learning, problem-based learning, so that people enter this workforce prepared, again, to race with machines instead of trying to go head-to-head with them.
Erik, do you think, given the central role in technology in displacing communities, in compounding unemployment, that we're going to see movements raging against the machine?
Well, it is a worry, and one of the reasons we wrote this book, we saw all the rage in the Occupy Wall Street movement, for that matter, the Tea Party movement, and there's a lot of very legitimate concern that the economic system is not working for most people, and that in some ways the game is rigged against them. We don't see technology as being the core problem, though. We see the inability of institutions to keep up with technology as being the core problem. We absolutely don't think we should try to smash the machines or freeze technology. That would by no means help the problem.
But that's easy for us to say, but if you're in Scranton or some other godforsaken place where you have no chance of being employed or being educated, you can't blame people for actually raging against the machine, can you?
No, you can't.
Apologies to anyone from Scranton who's watching.
But you can't. But luckily, what we see instead is people embracing technology and making it a bigger part of their lives instead of trying to smash it. And the clearest data I saw there was when Steve Jobs died, the spontaneous tributes to him breaking out all around the world in front of Apple stores. We do not have a society or a workforce that hates technology. And to echo Erik's point, thank heaven for that.
You know, technology is destroying jobs, but it's also creating jobs. That's ever how it's been. The farmers, the 90% of the American workforce that was in farms that didn't have to work on farms after automatic threshers came along, got reemployed when people like Henry Ford and Thomas Edison helped invent entirely new industries using new technologies. That's the same thing we need to do today. Technology is actually part of the solution to our problems. We talked earlier about education. That is an industry that's just ripe for technological transformation, whether it's Khan Academy or other technologies that can make technology itself much more productive. So we think that technology is going to be the solution to some of the problems that have opened up over the past decade or two.
We're at, of course, the Techonomy conference, and there's been a lot of talk here about the role of artificial intelligence
Yes.
in creating a new technological revolution. Andrew, in your opinion, if artificial intelligence does change the computing experience once again, will that be a good or bad thing for employment, and how will it impact on the broader economy?
It'll be a good thing for the broader economy because, again, it will increase our productivity, it will grow the overall economic pie. It will be a bad thing for more and more categories of knowledge worker because as I'm going to use machine learning instead of artificial intelligence. As machines learn more and more, they will encroach into more fields that are currently the domain of human beings alone. Now, there's reason to be concerned about that, but again, overall, this is a positive thing for the economy.
Well, you both seem hopefully old enough to remember the Ian Dury song, Reasons to be Cheerful. Erik, you don't look very cheerful.
I don't remember.
Well, smile, anyway. Finally, in conclusion, both of you, give me a couple of reasons why we should be cheerful. In terms of the way in which technology is making the world a better place for workers.
Yeah, well, this is a terrible time to be a worker with no special skills who potentially can see their tasks automated. But there's been no better time to be a talented entrepreneur or somebody who's got a passion that they want to have leverage with technology. And I'm optimistic because I think at Techonomy and increasingly throughout the whole economy, we're identifying more and more ways for those talented people to have their abilities bloom throughout the economy, for technology to leverage them. And if it's done right, it not only benefits them, but it can employ and benefit millions of other people as well.
Andrew, can technology solve the problem of people who don't have talent?
No, certainly not by itself. But what it can do, and I'll go back to your question about reasons to be cheerful, we know that the cost of technology just dropped dramatically over time. That increases people's access to technology and to all the benefits that come along with it. So today, not all of us, but a lot of us have access to an internet-connected device. If we have that base level of access, we have at our disposal a suite of knowledge and communications technologies that would stagger the imaginations of the Rockefellers. They literally could not get their minds around it. I heard a quip the other day that the average person, as a result of this bundle today, has better access to information than the President of the United States did 20 years ago. If that's an overstatement, I don't think it's much of an overstatement, and we should be fundamentally optimistic and cheerful about that kind of increased access to knowledge and communication resources.
Well, Erik Brynjolfsson and Andrew McAfee, on that cheerful note, I want to thank you very much for appearing on TechCrunch TV. And how do people get hold of this race against the machine?
Well, it's electronic, of course. The medium is the message.
Well, this doesn't seem very electronic.
So this is not the real book. This is a
physical artifact.
Physical facsimile of the real book.
So where do people find the real book?
The real book is on Amazon.
And Barnes & Noble.
And you can go there and download it. And the good thing about the real book is it's got hyperlinks and all the data
free?
connected there. It's $3.99. It's not free, but it's very reasonable.
Cost of a magazine, length of a plane flight. Enjoy.
Thank you, guys.
Our pleasure.
Thank you.